Sometimes newspapers tell tragic stories of things that happened to our ancestors. And today we're going to talk about one such story in my family. It's sad, but there's some good things that came out of it. So stay tuned for all the details. Hi, I'm Amy Cross, and today we're going to talk about the things that you can find in newspapers. Sometimes they're sad, and sometimes they're even tragic. And so today we're going to talk about a family story like that in my family that I discovered, but there were some things that came out of it that I want to share with you. So let's get to it. I was doing some research on my first cousin 4 times removed, Bertha Persis Luff. Now, she was named, her middle name was named after her mother. Her mother was Persis B. Jackson, right here, who was the daughter of Carding Jackson, who was my 4th great-grandfather. So that makes Bertha my first cousin 4 times removed. Anyway, I was doing some research on Bertha, and I had found her marriage to Ora Rimes, and I had found them in the 1900 census. So in 1900, Mervyn was a dentist, and the family resided specifically at 6331 Wentworth Avenue. So they had, in the family, they had Bertha, and they had 3 sons, Myron, Martin, and Lloyd, and with the family was Persis Luff. Now, she was listed as mother-in-law because that's her relationship to the head of the household, Mervyn. So Persis was Bertha's mother. And so I had done this research and I had found the family. I was doing some additional research and I found Bertha on a Illinois death index, having died on the 30th of December, 1903 in Chicago. As I spent some time looking further into this, I found her on Find a Grave. Let me show you this Find a Grave record. It had a picture of her headstone and it confirmed her death date as what I had found already. But this had said that she died with her family in the terrible Iroquois theater fire. See information on her husband's memorial. So I thought, and then there was headstone images for all of her children. I was unaware that they all died on the same day. And a lot of times you'll see that with family. You'll see people that may have died close to one another. And sometimes that indicates that maybe an epidemic swept through the community or there was an accident if multiple family members particularly died on the same date. So this made it easy for me because somebody had already put some information on Find a Grave, but I wanted to go find the information for myself. So I found the family listed in the newspaper. Here we had Dr. M.B. Rimes at 6331 Wentworth Avenue. He attended the theater with his wife and 3 sons. And so that confirmed that this is the right family. Not only do I have all the names correct, but they were living at the same address that I had them in the 1900 census. So if I looked at the top of the page, it said that these were the identified dead. And I thought, wow, I want to find out more about what happened. So right down here, you can change the pages on the paper. So I don't have to do any funky search. I can flip through the paper like I'm flipping through a regular paper. So I go to the front page and here we have this drawing of this exit door with a lock on top of it. And as I did further research, I found it covered the whole front page and a lot of the paper. And so to kind of sum things up, what happened was there were 602 deaths attributed to this fire. Now, the Great Chicago Fire only involved 300 deaths. So this one fire alone was worse than the Great Chicago Fire that destroyed so much property. There was a play that day that was a matinee, and so it was oriented towards children. It was a performance of Mr. Bluebird. And the theater would hold 1,600 people, but they even had people standing in the theater. So, and this show was sold out. So there could have been many, many more deaths. There were so many people, around 600 people died, 575 that day, and then others died as a result of injuries in the fire. It could have been so much worse. So many more people could have died. But what happened was they believed that there was some kind of an electrical problem, and it had a spark, which then caught some things backstage on fire. The theater had only opened the month previously. And that electrical short circuit spread to the fly gallery high above, where they had all of the scenery rolled up there, but it was highly flammable because of the paint that was used. And then the fire traveled to the asbestos fire curtain, which obviously didn't do its job. So, but what made this fire so terrible was they had tried to bring everybody together and have everybody come into the theater through one entrance so that everybody could see and be seen, and there wasn't any like division by class. And then the doors, some of the doors people could actually get out of, but they were like, they couldn't understand how to operate the door and how to get out of the door. And then on top of it, they had the area, the most expensive seats. They actually fenced it kind of off and had a locked gate there because they didn't want people sneaking into that area. So a lot of the theater's wealthy patrons passed away in that fire. And so it was just terrible. Some people were charged and things happened, and anyway, it was terrible. But as I flipped through the paper, I found additional articles, and as I went to page 4 of the article, we saw these beautiful pictures of people that perished in this fire, which when you're doing genealogy research and you're around 1900, a lot of times you don't have pictures of these family members. So terrible scenario, but here we have family member pictures. And as I kept flipping through the paper, here on the 6th page, I find, let me zoom in to this for you, I see a picture of Lloyd Rimes, 5 years old, Martin Rimes, 7 years old, and then I see a picture of Bertha Rimes, Mrs. M.B. Rimes, and her son Myron, their oldest son, when he was just a baby. And then I see a picture of the father, Dr. M.B. Rimes. In addition, this part of the article right here gave me some information that I knew nothing about. All I knew was about Bertha and her 3 boys and her husband. And this article stated that 3 of their 4 children met death together. The 4th child was left at home, and that's where we have the address of 6331 Wentworth Avenue. And I didn't know about another child, and now I'm thinking, what happened to this other child? So I started doing some digging, and I found the 1920 census. And I found an Ora Rimes, who was 19 years old at the time, which would place her death in 1901. Now we know this 4th child had to have been born between the census in 1900 and 1903, the end of 1903, when her family passed away. So this fit. So Ora would have only been like 2 or 3 years old when her family went to the theater. And obviously when you see a 2 or 3-year-old in a theater, you can understand why maybe the family left her at home. She was residing with Jacob M. Luff and his wife Margaret, and they lived in Chicago. Okay, right place, right age. Let's look into Jacob Luff. Well, I had done some research on my family, on my Luff family, and I knew that Persis B. Jackson had a son named Jacob Martin Luff. And I didn't, at this point, really know a whole lot about him, but I looked into him a little bit further, and I found a marriage record that he did marry a Margaret Johnson, and that they resided in 1900 in Chicago, and they were enumerated, and I didn't find them in 1910, but this census, that ages matched he and his wife and Bertha. So I thought, wow, let's find her in 1910. Well, I couldn't find Jacob with Bertha with Ora, in 1910. So I thought, goodness, where could she have been? I do some more census research. And in 1910, I find Bertha in the home of Emil Schultz, and he's listed as head. Now, normally, when somebody lives within another home, they have a separate dwelling number, and then there's a new family number, but they didn't do that here. I think the enumerator actually made a mistake, because here we see Margaret Love as the head of another family within this household, and she resides with her niece, Ora Rimes, and with Persis Love, the mother-in-law. So I wasn't able to find Jacob in 1910, but I found Margaret Love of the same age with her niece Ora Rimes. And she was married. She'd been married for 12 years, and her place of birth and her age were correct. And with her resided her mother-in-law, Persis Luff. Now, that was a mistake. They either heard incorrectly or whoever they spoke to didn't know, but the name should be Luff. So Martin may have been off working somewhere else. He may have been doing some work. But here I find his wife, because I know it's his wife because she's listed with Persis as her mother-in-law. And so Persis would be the mother of her husband. And I find Ora with the family, same age, right information. Her parents were born in the right places. So I have found my family. So I did some more research on Ora. And I find that I found her marriage record, and she married Francis Kingsley. And I find that family later in Essex, New Jersey, Essex County, and then in New Canaan, Fairfield, Connecticut in 1940. So I'm getting more information on Ora. Now, the best part of this story, as I did some more research on her uncle, Jacob M. Luff, I find his obituary. This obituary was actually from the Tampa Tribune, Tampa, Florida. Why would they be there? But I found that a Jacob M. Luff, 82 years old, a winter resident from Cassopolis, Michigan, died in Florida the previous night and was survived by his widow, Mrs. Margaret Luff, and daughter, Miss Ora Kingsley of New Canaan, Connecticut. Okay, this was my same Ora. And she's listed in his obituary as his daughter. So I wanted to double check, and so far everything was working out pretty well, but I wanted to do just a little bit more research. Did Jacob reside in Cassopolis? And I found him there in 1930 and 1940. Now at this point, Ora had moved out with her husband, right? She had now had her own family. But all of these things fit together. So this newspaper article not only gave me pictures of family members, but it told me about a child that I knew nothing about. And the happy part of the story is that she was adopted by her uncle and became part of their family and was considered their daughter. So that is good news. Now, the other good news is some things that happened as a result of that fire. In 1883, because there was a terrible fire in the United Kingdom at Victoria Hall, and because of that, Robert Alexander Briggs created what they call now the panic door or the panic bolt, which allows, or sometimes we call it a crash bar. And what that does is the door can be locked from the outside, but if somebody inside hits that bar on a door, then they can get out of a building. And so the fire in Chicago led it to become mandatory that all public buildings have bars like that. I happened to go over the holidays with my granddaughter and my daughter and my husband to go see a performance of the Nutcracker. And the whole reason I'm doing this story is because as I was sitting with my granddaughter, I looked across the theater and there I saw a door with a well-marked exit sign and a crash bar, knowing that if something, heaven forbid, were bad to happen in this theater, we would have exits that were clearly marked, and that brought me peace. So over 100 years ago, one of my family members tragically died in a fire, but it led to great innovation that now makes it possible for us to be safer in public buildings. And I was able to see that her daughter was raised by her brother, and that made me happy. So positive things came out of tragic findings in newspaper articles. I hope this has been of interest to you. I hope it's helped you see how finding a newspaper article can lead you to a story that maybe you weren't expecting and provided great details about a family member. I hope that you can share, put in your comments some of the stories that you found about your family members that have led to discoveries in your family history. Please like if this has been of interest to you. Please subscribe to the channel and have a great day. Thanks.